Good day. Much happened in the week. There was the increase of beer prices, and the government said no, put it at the level at which it was and negotiate to have it. But much was said about women this week, and on Friday they decided to celebrate March 8 as International Women's Day, and a group of Cameroonians, a peace initiative. They want to begin talking peace on the ongoing crisis in the northwest and southwest. We'll talk to them and try to see what they have under their belt, and also on what they are up to with March 8. Is it the day men have to go to the kitchen the other day, or that they have something to tell the world about inequality of the genders? Talk on those two on the program this day, and exceptionally we have 5 guests. We have Honorable Francis Ewi as a peace initiator. You're welcome.
Thank you, Joe.
Our editorialist and colleague Tewi Lamif, you're welcome.
Thank you.
We have another political activist and a woman who is very involved. And another colleague, Eugene Fongwa, you're welcome.
It's a pleasure.
And one of the peace initiators, Honorable Chief Nobe Bile, you're welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. I'd like us to begin with what our press review.
The 34th edition of the Women's Day, celebrated March 8, was topmost in most newspaper editions this week. 24 hours to the celebration, Cameroon Tribune headlined on the rising temperature, offering a roundup of activities in the different administrations in prelude to the big event. Empowerment and the Family, in pages 56, granted an interview to the public bilingual daily on the situation of the Cameroonian woman today. The achievements of some Cameroonian women were also highlighted in the first edition of the bilingual magazine Creative Women. Women aside, the Anglophone crisis continues to make news, with several private newspaper editions addressing the decision made by the Abuja Federal High Court on March 1, 2019 to return deported Sisiko Ayub Tabi and 56 others. In the Voice editions, the articles detailed Honorable Justice Awuli Chikere's decision, stating that there were no evidence that those extradited were involved in any legal act that warranted their arrest and deportation. On the subject, the Horizon mentions a grant of 5 million naira as compensation to the Amba leaders apart from their repatriation from Cameroon. In the article in pages by his comrade, President Paul Biya. The private English independent newspaper, The Post, adds that Abuja's court puts Cameroon, Nigeria on a legal, diplomatic tight spot with the question if Abuja and Yaoundé will comply to the court. Related news, U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs has criticized Cameroon government for the handling of the Anglophone for the release of Kamto and Co. Thursday's edition of the Guardian Post headlined on fireworks feared as Trump's envoy expected in Yaoundé, with the article reading that a 2-day working visit of Thibaut Peter Nyagi on March 17 and 18 has already stirred tension. In a communique from Cameroon's Minister of Communication, the comments made by the American diplomat in an interview open quote, a lack of knowledge of the stakes, realities and facts concerning the arrest of Professor Maurice Kamto, as well as the situation in the northwest and southwest regions, end of quotes. Finally, government offers solutions to the several fire incidents in Marché Congo, in Cameroon's economic capital, as well as the Ligejwa market in Yaoundé. Monday's edition of the Public Bilingual Daily recounted the visit of the Minister of Federal Administration to Douala, who announced the construction of permanent market structures in Douala. Well, those were some of those things that made news this week.
Let me begin with Yvonne. What are women up to? So much noise in the week.
That's a stereotype. There was no much noise. No, I was not part of the noise, and I don't think a majority of Cameroonian women were part of the noise, because this time around it was much more about the topic, the theme for the year. Women had lots of debates, and what pleased me in the center is that a lot of women structures, women came out with gifts. People from the northwest and southwest regions.
But that wasn't the focus. You said from the theme.
It's a women day, the theme. What they said, we're still fighting, fighting against gender-based violence.
Is it violence or equality that you want? Reduce violence, or you want equality with men?
I don't even need to say it, because most of the banners at the boulevard were talking about 50-50, preaching parity. So it's no longer inequalities. We're already preaching equality. It's for power bearers to level the playing ground so that women, they actually impact the life of this nation.
Don't you think that it's women themselves that shy away from some of the responsibilities or fields that are male dominated?
Society had let it dawn on women like that. But I think since women returned from Beijing, it has been evolving year in, year out. The case of Cameroon is not different. If Cameroon, 8th of March, they can parade with banners preaching equality, talking about 50-50 representation in politics, the nation, I think.
Now, you just talked about, this is the second time you're repeating 50-50.
Yeah.
50-50 in what domain?
When it comes to appointments, if you have 62 ministries, women should have 31 and men 31. Same thing in Parliament, 180. Women should be 90 and men 90. Let's use the two arms.
Okay, in the political domain.
In the political domain. When it also comes to appointments, whoever is appointing, others have tried it, has a 50-50 government. Why not Cameroon? And to come out of that and to even emphasize on that fact would failed us. So we even want women to be more in those positions. That's why we have them in the University of Kundingi. They keep increasing by the hour.
But women have gone there too.
Comparatively, what's the number?
Because of the percentage too.
Comparatively, we are a majority of this population. They are going there in their majority because they were majority in governance. Yes.
So which means that if you were also 50-50 would have...
But it wouldn't have been like that. The few who have been there have proven their worth.
What's the guarantee?
The guarantee is that women work from their hearts, their interests first.
That sounds quite interesting, and it makes me want to laugh. But women referring to Beijing as if Beijing, I don't know, that was the magic point, the turnaround, where women made a turnaround.
Well, I think the thing that happened in Beijing is that a struggle that had been on for decades was finally and became not only something you spoke about, but something around which policy evolved. The whole idea of gender sensitivity or gender considerations in policy making, in project development, arose out of the fact that the recognition of the role that could play had been mainstreamed, at least at that point. The thing that has happened over there is, and when I hear this talk about 50-50, about parity, it gives the impression that you could solve this gender by simply appointing...
Giving women appointive posts.
Yeah. I feel that, and many people have argued, that there are in society a lot of blockades, a lot of social, cultural, and issues that limit the opportunities for women. And the focus, in my view, ought to be in eliminating those barriers to exploitation of the potential of women and allow women to be able to rise through those ranks. If you did a cosmetic approach, which is, okay, let's just have 50 women against 50 men, if the competencies are not there, if the ability to deliver is not there, it's not going to solve the problem, particularly for women. There are two main schools of thought on this issue. One is the parity narrative that she has, but there is also the gender insensitivity narrative, which is that appoint anybody based on their competencies and not based on the fact that they are women or men. Again, that is very much out of phase with the parity school of thought, which is no, just put women there.
About their competence later. Now, he just intimated about this cultural barriers. As a traditional ruler first, how are you working to liberate the women? Or do you think that African traditions prevent women from getting access to certain of national life?
Yeah, I think that is the foundation of the relative inequality more with other civilizations. Initially, in our culture, women were bound, and it is the men or the boys or the male who were looked upon as those to forge society on. And I think with more balanced education, the women have started to equalize factor, and I think that they have achieved a lot within a very relatively short span of time. That even in the villages, we have started looking at the girl child in the family as the boy child. I remember, for example, when my father died, and we had to shed a little bit of left behind. It never occurred to us to differentiate between our sisters and the brothers. Some, of course, tried to evoke that scenario, but they were quickly hushed down. I'm not saying that this is generally the situation. There are still some areas or some families, because it now has to be family by family. In some tell the sisters, go to your husband's family. That's where you belong. You are no longer a member of our family, so we can't give you any share. And I think if we start fighting things from that level, the equation fight will be faster.
Now, as a tradition, discussions of that kind in your traditional council?
Yes, yes, especially where girl does not get married to another family, or where the girl delivers children and they grow in the home. She gets a man in that family, and she needs land to work on, she needs a roof to cover her, and she needs other things. I think it is when a girl child marries into another powerful family and has full family that the former family seems to say, but you're already there, please don't come back. But I think generally our subjects that there is no difference in importance. Boy and the boy child, and especially that You may even have benefits more through the girl than the boy, because when the boy marries, you will tell yourself, you use yourself as an example, it is your wife's people who enjoy you even more than your own family, and it is like that. So if you are not careful, you will be paying rather than paying yourself. So we should be careful about that, and equation is very important.
Okay. Now, he talked about cultural barriers. There is this aspect that has to do with ability. Do you just leave everything up that people should be judged based on their ability to deliver, be them women or men?
Yeah, I think that's one of the major factors to be considered. And also considering that the evolution of integration of women into all aspects of governance and politics in our country has actually improved within the past few years. And their participation in politics, which is a major one, like the increase we see at the National Assembly, even in government ministers have equally increased with the number of women. And we might not come long taken that move and have gone to the level of 50-50, and we feel that we can jump to the morning and tomorrow evening we are on process. And because
you're talking like somebody who's giving.
At some points you see you see that women, the force at which they are coming in with is making the men become a bit an endangered species. It should not tomorrow become a problem where the men say, but you want to take everything. You now want to push us even, the next thing they'll tell the husband not to sleep in front of the bed but behind. But we appreciate that. And we also are happy, and we encourage people with that move. We know that majority of our women are found in the rural areas, and their participation in this other level of governance and other aspects is hardly seen, because the mentality in the rural areas and the women in the urban areas are a bit different. So the minority women that are in the urban areas want to be seen. Meanwhile, our women in the rural areas, we are encouraging them
to come out.
And sometimes it needs negotiations, because some cultural barriers are there that block some of them from coming out. Some of them, they're a bit timid. Sometimes the environment makes things good. But in a nutshell, we encourage women to stand up. We encourage women to be given opportunities, because it's true. And they've done quite well.
Okay. Now, they're talking about cultural barriers, and they talked about education. The cultural conception that when a woman is not married, she cannot get access to in society, even if she's qualified. That's a notion which is at the back of so many heads. Yeah. You don't give them opportunities because they are not married. And one of the things which there was a study which I read through, noted, was that when women get educated to a very high level, men shy away from them, men run away from them. And that makes many girls not go very high in their education, because they end up not having husbands.
Well, Joe, I think it is, again, trying to tell something less serious. I think that education is good for a human being, whether you are a woman or a man. You need to be you need to be educated. But what disturbs me with the issue of how we raise gender-based issues is the tendency to go to trivial issues. I think that women just 2 days ago were out there, I don't know what they were celebrating. I don't even know whether it's an occasion to celebrate. I thought would be an opportunity to discuss some of the issues that we're discussing here. And you and me know that that we had very little of. We instead saw the spectacle that surrounds an event that, to me, is more important. Take, for example, the Cameroonization of this issue of the International Women's Day. We have our own way of doing things, but elsewhere, when I try to follow up what is happening elsewhere, women, well, as we're doing here. Take, for example, the issue of the fabric. Look at the economy, look at the energy, look at the time that gets into the trivial issue of the fabric. And I tend to ask myself, is that what women are looking at the fabric and go?
That's part of it in Cameroon.
Well, that's what I'm
the Cameroonization of March 8th.
Yes. So, and I think that when we're raising the issue of parity is important, but parity cannot just be declared. We need to have certain parameters. It is not just because you're a woman that you should occupy a certain position. To me, that if we were to go by that, then I think we're getting it all wrong. I think what important is to sensitize the women to know that role they play. We should also learn to accept that as human beings, I cannot play the role of a woman cannot play my role. And send some of these things to the background.
Relegate it to the background.
Which are important. When we're talking of parity, a man or a man to become a woman, it is turning a serious issue into a less serious issue. Women parity. Take the political level. It is not because you're a woman that you should be given half of the members of parliament. Why don't women elect women if it has to be that? They are in the majority after all. Why must we declare a percentage for women? Why can't women take the responsibility and go out there and fight for the votes? They have the numbers.
Okay. There's no, I don't know, any woman who came up with a political party and who has and such a candidate because, or such a party because it's a women's party. But what has March 8 contributed in your struggle for parity?
I'll bring it back to Cameroon. The way March 8 is handled in Cameroon does not push the bridging of the gender gap anywhere further. It's been tied up around talked of gender-sensitive budgets. These budgets were to better the working conditions of women ministries, not just to budget something to buy them a fabric, stitch the fabric, and food, and it ends the parity we are clamoring for. It's not like the female competencies lack, because we wanted to stay on appointments or political participation. Socialization had brought up the Cameroonian woman to go clap, dance, cook for the male politicians. I'm happy he mentioned in Parliament and the Senate, our local councils are still really wanting when it comes to like council heads, that we are working towards. So when we talk about the 50-50, it's not something somebody is sitting and say, take and give. The female competencies are there. We are on a day-to-day basis sensitizing the women. If we've worked up to getting 30.10% in Parliament,
it's because you've been
possible.
Vocal.
It's because we've been vocal. We've been reminding women that don't about us without us. Talk about us with us.
In other words, you've pushed the men to give you...
Not pushing men to give. Nobody wants another one's place. But the men who have it will not just give it on a platter of gold. I don't see the until every woman. No, The woman should be competent. She should be able to garner the votes from the field. But we to come out and do the politics. I keep saying it. We have to walk the talk. Women have to change the narrative. You say we are 52. We should use that numerical strength
to be able to
gain
make
dividends, political dividends, and dividends in all the will come to peace and justice or to peace building. You hear me talk. Women are mobilized. They have mobilized. Really on the ground.
Okay. I like us.
If you permit just 1 minute, we have topical issues in our country where I throw it's very primordial, but you don't tend to see them. Look at the crisis we have in the country.
Okay, she has Settlements Day, and we see how they celebrated that day in Cameroon.
Again,
as we move on to our next issue.
It all started some minutes to noon with the arrival of members of government headed by the minister. Then came the First Lady, Madame Chantal Biya, who opened the parade for the 34th edition of the International Women's Day. They began with an opening bouquet with 2 special squads of women in colors of the flag and messages that centered on this. The staff of the Presidency of the Republic led the first wagon, followed by the women of the General Administration and Finance. Came women of Education Ministries, Communication, Health, Social Affairs and Commerce. Over 60 in blue and pink, accessorizing with caps, flags, musical bands, cheerleaders, mascots, but all brandishing a message that called for gender parity in all spheres.
The theme of this year talks about equality. It is a theme in which the
parade for the 34th edition of the International Women's Day began with an opening bouquet with 2 special squads of women in colors of the flag and messages that centered on the staff of the Presidency of the Republic led the first wagon, followed by the women of the General Administration and Finance. Came women of Education Ministries, Communication, Health, Social Affairs and Commerce. Over 67,000 women in blue and pink, accessorizing with caps, flags, musical bands, cheerleaders, mascots, but all called for gender parity in all spheres.
The theme of this year talks about equality. It is a theme in which 11 members of government. We have women, we are board chair, they are rectors of university.
Also present at the march past were numerous female associations, with the largest delegation from the northwest and southwest regions, who came in numbers chanting hymns of a Cameroon that is one and indivisible. For more than 2 hours, women in different milieus marched to denounce injustice while celebrating the achievements of women so far under the guardianship of the First Lady.
Okay, let's move on to our next issue, which has to do with the numerous peace initiatives which have come up in the country, and one of them has been by a group of Cameroonians. 2 of them are here, Chief N. Bile and Honorable Francis Enui. I'll begin with you. What's new in what you are proposing?
First, let me remind ourselves of the macabre situation the Northwest are living today. It's unimaginable. Nobody 2 years ago could dream that we would get this far negatively. Farmers can't go to farm. Farmers can't harvest what they planted. They struggled to plant last year. not to talk of schools, talk of our communities.
I wouldn't want us to dwell on it.
No.
We know how
it's as a result of all this. Yes,
it is.
I'm coming. Is that with all the numerous trials to get people to change, it was important to consider certain parameters in these proposals. First, the specificity of our peace movement. It is called the Northwest-Southwest Peace Movement on Cessation of Violence. Northwest-Southwest Peace Movement on Cessation of Violence. The specificity is first that it is a Northwest from one region or it's both. And the membership was conceived in a way that every initial 18 to 20 of us, we have members coming from each division of the two regions, from varied walks of life, profession, experience, political, though we are political, but we made sure that even in the choice of politicians, we spread it out so that the opinions will be varied. That's the first specificity. The second specificity is that we are a movement advocating of violence, period. And if that is achieved, we will allow generate a background for other, a background fertile enough for other things like the exclusive dialogue.
Inclusive.
Inclusive, thank you. The inclusive dialogue, which is the cry of everybody, to be implemented. Without any conditionalities to the cessation of violence. We say cessation of violence first because violence is going on. That meeting will be ill represented. The people who will come will not speak out their mind. You saw some people who tried to hold meetings, how the meetings could not work because on this side there were threats, on this other side there were doubts, and so on. So the second specificity is that no conditionalities. We all say stop dialogue. And I think those are the two specificities that make us distinct.
He just made mention of some have to do with your new initiative. How do you intend to go about it? Meet people, meet factions, meet government, meet who? How do you intend to move about it?
Yeah, we had decided after a couple of meetings. I think we held the first meeting in Douala and 2 other meetings in Yaoundé.
Was it in secret?
We will say where there was no serious publication about them. Since with this idea. And in these meetings at the beginning, we saw that from various backgrounds, we could see guys pro this side, people pro this side, people pro, I mean, all the components of the society were reflected in these first meetings. And you could have people coming in with their own stand and say, no, it must end up this way. But before the third meeting, we came to a conclusion where everybody now started focusing in one direction. And there we said people have various DNAs. DNA pro-government, DNA pro-secessionists, DNA pro other acts, other sensitive parties in the country. We put together all these DNAs and finally came to conclusion that we keep aside all our backgrounds and work as elites of the Northwest and Southwest who are affected, because all of us are affected. The whole country is not in order. Issue of the cessation of violence, which is our major project. And through that, we put in place a plan of action to meet the people. We have planned to meet everybody.
Do you mean every
interested party?
Okay.
Will be meeting those for secession, will be meeting government, will be meeting, in fact, everybody from top to bottom. We have planned to go to the regions. We have planned to touch even the divisions and subdivisions.
With the insecurity there?
Well, start marketing this. If we start selling the idea as we are doing, and tomorrow all of us sitting here are working in that direction, it will gradually disseminate and to get to where we have to.
Okay.
So our appeal now is just for people to cooperate.
Okay. When you speak, and honorable speak, political coloration, and this, when you send across that message, it begins to draw some apprehension from other people. Why didn't you get people who would stand at the forefront without any political coloration? Any of you can take that question.
Wait, for that, yes, we are trying to make Cameroonians understand that forget about party. We are, first of all, Cameroonians. And coming to that, we have, first of all, Anglophones from these affected areas. We are even affected. We have all lost properties. I lost everything. Mine was burned with everything gone, the only house I have. So I would not take the party uniform and cover myself and begin to talk in a different way when we are also in the... People should keep aside that issue of the party. We started working on this for a couple of years at the beginning. Joe, I think we even started all some of these initiatives together. You know, and we work to certain levels. So when you start an idea and you see that you are working on the idea, we have incorporated other people who are coming and are gradually reasoning with us. Now it is everybody's business. Tomorrow you will see other teams, other members coming and sitting here and talking like us on behalf of this organization. And in another TV channel, you will see another one talking. It will not only be us, the two. Tomorrow you yourself will be another advocate for all of this. All of us sitting here.
You are co-opting me already.
You are already part of it. We are all part of it already.
You must be
the women, the mind. Yeah, we will use all of them. Tomorrow everybody will speak in the same language.
Now, are you people coming as an umbrella in every initiative towards peace, or you are a specific group for a specific purpose? Yes.
Let me start by saying that of two of us is very incidental. It's not a plan. Ultimately, of the group, the initial 20, only 2 of us live in Yaoundé presently. There are other 2 members who live in Yaoundé, but they are out of the country for now. So since we have financial limitations, it is not easy to get people to come just for one program.
Okay.
But for this program, it was discussed. In fact, members raised this question you raised, that would be interpreted. So first is its data. Secondly, we want to make it clearly that the Anglophone crisis party matter. People have suffered across the board.
Okay.
CPDM they have been targeted. So we cannot look at somebody and the first thing we ask is, what is his political coloring, before we hear what
he has to say.
Yes, the message. So I think that this is part of the education we must
so put across.
Implement.
Yes, and I was asking to whether you are coming as an umbrella structure to bring in every peace initiative, or you are an engine driving your own ideas through.
First, we do not, I really personally do not know how many peace initiatives are there.
Okay.
But we say we are a movement talking about a specific project of cessation of violence. You know, there are many of directions in this fight. Some people think that we should start from the top, which is the form of the state. Others think that we should this or that. We say that all those initiatives, laudable as they may be, will not work shooting is still going on. So we say situation of violence is prima facie the point. And
Okay.
that is our focus.
All right.
That's
I'll let the panelists react to what you've said first, then I'll ask my series of questions. Yes, Tewi?
Joe, I'll start by, in as much shared the initiative, I think it is too little too late. These are all members of parliament. Oh well, you have members, which means you know what it means to represent people. You are still a member of parliament.
Yes. I was speaking for myself.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that's what I'm saying.
I left parliament 2007.
Yes. What stops this? Of the people. It is like leaving the main issue and chasing the shadow. Why don't you start from where you have to start? And then you come now as peace initiators. Where were you? Where were you?
I think maybe I'm not cutting you short.
Yes, no, I'll give you the opportunity to answer. He's just reacting.
Okay.
Land a little bit quicker so
Yes,
we can take off.
And then little things that matter. All of you are from the CPDM. What credibility do you think you have sitting here and talking about it, in as much as you may claim that it is incidental? Those things matter when you are taking a peace initiative.
Okay.
You must be seen to be credible.
Okay. All right.
Before
Yvonne?
the situation escalated, we had come organizations, female-led civil society organizations of the Northwest and Southwest regions. We are close to women who lead organizations, grassroots organizations. In the advent of a crisis affected. So we began by going into the bushes, taking sanitary towels and all what are basics to our sisters in the bushes, assisting some put to birth. And in August 2018, we organized lamentations in Boya and Bamenda. October, we had a press conference and tell the powers that be that the women that we are tired of seeing our children die from that is sent through a woman's heart. We had that initiative. We are on it. Women of the two regions, grassroots women, some who even came out of the bushes, have been trained like mediators. We could have that. An initiative like this comes, the first thing you go sit on the table, you first look at those who have already been there. How I have a political name, but I've been more active in the civil society than. That's how we could close these political lines and say, like mothers, we want an end to hostilities. Through memoranda, we are still preparing. We have workshops coming up where we are preparing to come up with more.
Okay.
We say we must come together to come up with memorandum, and it's all of these
solutions don't work.
We have solved these problems in the grassroots. Women are, most of our associations are the ones distributing the humanitarian aid to the people and the displaced.
Eugene?
I think one of the biggest threats to all of these initiatives is that it's already being perceived as people trying to position themselves to be seen as doing something. And if you know that the initiatives that at the end of the day, when you listen to people speak, they're seeking one thing, a return of peace. Among each other, if you disagree among each other so badly that you cannot have a common front, that they are not selfish in one way or the other, that there are no self-interests that these initiators want to fulfill. And so that to me is the biggest challenge with initiatives like this. And I can tell you there is nobody that what's going on there is terrible, that before anything takes off, we need to have an end. But those who are leading these initiatives haven't demonstrated enough that they can also be united around this common goal, which is the return of peace, the end of violence, the end of cessation of violence. You put it that at least people are no longer being killed, being attacked, houses are not being burned. That's if you can't unite about that, it's going to be difficult to move forward.
Okay. From what they have said, the three people have observed political coloration and the idea of trying to join in with other or federal initiatives and to be able to see how to come up with a common front. Because if you cannot federate, it becomes difficult. The peace initiatives are on, and you know the arguments about it. So how do you intend, I asked the question earlier on whether you want to carry an umbrella structure to be able to federate everything, or you're moving as an independent initiative besides what is already on the ground.
Yes.
Okay. Honorable has been very itchy.
Yes.
Okay.
Eventually, yes, we would wish, without being problematic or argumentative about it, that everybody comes on board. Because the problem is we are going to start looking at organizations that are already working and liaise with them. We will go and meet them. And with the project introduction, hopefully, they will work as one. On the composition of our, as I said, it's incidental that Honorable and myself are in Yaoundé and had to attend. But you remember when you invited I alone? I told you I cannot come I alone, because our project is a two-phase project, West Southwest, that we'll have to get a member from the Northwest to come with me. That's why in additional 4, we are 5, because you listened to my proposal and you accepted. Now, I will give you some names of some of the members.
No,
to show you, the spread.
I would prefer.
And if I give you, you will see SDF people, you will see civil society, you will see.
No.
Good. So
yes.
I don't want it. When you bring it,
to make it political.
When you bring it up that it is political because too pro, but I am trying to counter that, and you say I shouldn't. So it's like you are okay. Giving me a name of a dog. Just me defending myself.
Let Terry, just allow me ask a question. Who respond to your preoccupation, please?
The issue of the cardinal. Why do you go and you are creating your own?
Please, Terry.
We know this.
Terry, just give him the time.
The Cardinals project of the Anglophone Conference is still on the table, but they have specified. Let me tell you that.
Can I be the devil's advocate? They have specified that they want a cessation of hostilities.
Yes, before
that's their primary goal.
You can't declare that because you are neither a belligerent. You can't.
No, you can't say that.
Terry.
You can't say that.
Terry, please.
You can't say that.
Excuse him, Land. They are the ones taking the initiative, yes.
They are our children. When we talk to them, they listen. The Cardinals project, we say that the Cardinals project will be thwarted from the word go if violence is going on and the conference is holding. So we say prior to the holding of that conference, let violence cease. Then we will all go to the conference in speaking his mind.
All right.
That is where we come.
Okay.
Like we said, a lot of consultation will be done. And I want to react very fast at any initiative. And they start looking at faces. We think that as Anglophones, we should start looking at the ball, not the faces. If we keep looking at the faces involved, then we will never score a goal.
Okay.
Here, we need to understand that somebody must start something somewhere. Others have been doing other initiatives. We appreciate all. I am behind anybody. Even if a child gets up tomorrow and starts singing and dancing peace on the road, I will follow him because we want peace. I will not come and say this child, oh, what is his background? Who is he? He's incapable, he's from a poor family. No. I, as a parliamentarian from the initial beginning of this issue, I was in press hour. And I remember I enumerated what will happen ourselves.
Okay.
And I've continued like that. I'm a CPDM parliamentarian.
Okay, that's good, yes.
But he also said here, excuse me,
yes.
He said, what has Parliament has not done anything. A lot has been done in Parliament you think should be done. We in Parliament don't sleep. We are parliamentarians. We are all affected. Some dance, some are there dancing, some are behind us holding serious initiatives.
Please, Honorable, your colleague has the floor.
I have been to prison. I had to see the leaders when they were just arrested. I met Bala, Mancho, and the rest there in SED, when nobody, people are afraid to go there. I've been to Kundenge more than 3-4 times. Last to release a child that was picked up from the Northwest, and they finally discovered I was an underage. I was in Kundenge last week. Parliamentarian. I talk with even friends in the diaspora. Okay. We do all other initiatives. Okay. They must not come.
All right. We shouldn't get to that. Yes. Observation. Then I ask my question.
I think I understand Honorable's frustration, but I also understand Terry's preoccupation I have, that it shouldn't be like that. You shouldn't be doing things in your personal capacity in this country. And I'm saying that I haven't seen the Parliament take this issue seriously. I have seen Parliament refuse to even discuss it. These are facts. I know what you have done. You have said the things you have done, but Parliament has failed the Cameroonian people and the English, the Anglophone community of this country, whether we like it or not. And that is the first place to start.
I know what we have done in Parliament. You must not debate officially. We debate with those that matter, those that take issue.
Who matters?
And we've had
matters. Parliament cannot tell me that the people in this country don't matter.
Please.
A lawmaker cannot tell me.
No. Please, Eugene. No, please, no. You won't make the point. You make it after Elvis would have.
No member of Parliament is.
Elvis would have spoken. Okay, Elvis, you have the floor.
Yes, Joe. We have so many reactions. We're going to take a few for the sake of time. We have taken from Tachi Roland, who says, as far as the Anglophone crisis is concerned, I want to believe that it is too late to be talking about despite numerous calls from the international community for a ceasefire. And let's take some from Miri Kilachin, who says, I think Women's Day is a day in every angle wanting to celebrate together. And we'll conclude with Prince Mutabene Obese, who says, on the it's a good thing as long as it is inclusive and no topic will be considered a taboo.
Okay,
that's great.
All right. A taboo means
no, do not define a taboo. Okay, wait.
It's my dialect. It's my dialect.
It's
a taboo. Oh, I got a taboo. No, sorry.
Okay. Sorry, you thought you were speaking in your language?
I was speaking my dialect. I said a taboo. Taboo.
Okay. Yes. All right. We have just 3 minutes, so I'll give you 30 seconds each. And he will. So, how do you go about it? How would you be able to fizzle into any structure that? Okay, we want different leaders.
Well, the problem is not that of leadership. The problem is achieving our goal. and we sit behind and push the idea forward. What we want is the results.
All right, thanks. Tewi?
So I think that we are dispersing some of these initiatives. They have cosmetic effects. Okay. I think that they should be. Why must you initiative? Okay. Why can't you join others?
All right, Yvonne?
With the women, I will still talk like a woman. With the women, peace is possible, and we still believe that peace is possible. Truth be told, the children who are killed are us. Those who are for our children, let the woman's voice be listened to.
Okay.
Let's change the narrative. Let the woman listen.
Initiative are coming up because the political leadership of the country has not been able to find a solution to this problem, and people have been up and push government. But we know for sure that if action is taken, the decisions are taken at the right places, with the right mind frame, with the sole purpose of holding and defending the interest and integrity of this country that everybody preaches, this thing will end.
Okay. Honorable?
Yeah, sincerely, across the board, I have still felt that in our resistance. We see a wall, and yet we say break through that wall. It is very clear that some initiatives in this context of Cameroon will not prosper. Let us not in context. The government hand. No, we should be very clear.
You have the last word.
No, he can.
Please, Tewi, he has the.
I say this: if some initiatives don't prosper, it does not mean that others will sit back and say we must break through that wall or die in the attempt. I am saying that we must accept other ideas, especially if there is an iota of an opinion, of a chance that this idea may work.
Okay.
I think that if we cease violence, if we stop people from running into the bushes to come home, talk to people, get them out, get people to calm down, ask government to express themselves in a forum, and that's the dialogue, and maybe through that we may forge ahead.
All right.
That's the dream of the Northwest Southwest Peace Movement.
Does it have another name other than what you're...
No.
Okay, Northwest Southwest Dialogue.
Peace, cessation of violence.
Okay.
We were not.
All right. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for coming. After this program. So thank you for being with us on the program this midday. We're looking forward to being with you again same time next week. Until then, right ahead. Good day, and stay with us if you can.